The first time I met Clara, I thought she was a ray of sunshine, a blindingly bright one. My husband, Ben, had been singing her praises for weeks, this new marketing whiz kid at his firm. I was prepared to be jealous, maybe a little threatened, but when she walked into the pub that evening, a whirlwind of curly red hair and infectious laughter, I was simply charmed. It was a double date. Clara and her then boyfriend, Liam, who was a quiet, almost mousy fellow. Ben and I had been looking forward to it, eager to get to know these new work acquaintances. Conversation flowed easily. Clara was dynamic, engaging, and genuinely interested in what I had to say. She told stories with dramatic flair, her eyes sparkling, and had this way of leaning in that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. We even bonded over a shared love of cheesy 80s movies. Liam mostly nodded along, occasionally adding a soft-spoken comment. I remember thinking, she's wonderful. Ben was right. It was a pleasant evening, filled with easy banter and the promise of good friendships to come. Little did I know, that night was the calm before the storm, the gentle breeze before the hurricane. I'd always been secure in my relationship with Ben. We were each other's anchors, comfortable in our routines and traditions. We communicated well, we laughed often, and we were, I thought, in tune with each other's needs. But, looking back, maybe I was too complacent, too confident in the solidity of our foundations. The change was subtle at first. Ben started staying later at the office, bringing home work he needed to finish. He mentioned Clara's name more often, her ideas, her insights, her jokes. I tried to be understanding, knowing the pressure he was under with the recent quarterly deadlines. I even found myself asking about her, fueled by a mixture of curiosity and a strange, unsettling feeling. Then came the day Ben forgot our anniversary. He'd never forgotten before. It wasn't just the forgotten dinner reservation or the lack of flowers. It was the look on his face when I reminded him, a look of distracted guilt and, dare I say, a flicker of something else. It was the same look he had when he confessed he'd been meeting Clara for work discussions late at night. My carefully constructed world started to crumble, the soft edges fraying into jagged ones. I felt it then, deep down in my gut, the truth I'd been denying for weeks. It wasn't just work discussions. It was the same electric pull I'd seen in Clara when we'd first met, the gravitational force that drew people to her. It was the same thing Ben had fallen victim to, it seems. The confrontation was inevitable. We sat in silence for a long time after I'd stated the obvious. He didn't deny it. Instead, he spoke of being inspired, of feeling alive again. He used words that felt like knives, twisting in my heart. He talked about finding something he didn't even realize he'd been missing. It wasn't me, apparently. It all became agonizingly clear. Clara, with her infectious energy and her effortless charm, had become more than just a colleague. She'd become an obsession. And Ben, my dependable, loving Ben, had been swept away by it. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Not at first. I felt numb, as if watching a scene unfold on a distant stage. The woman I had admired, whose company I had enjoyed, had become the architect of my heartbreak. And the man I loved, the one I built my life around, had willingly walked into the trap. I see now that I knew, deep down, from the moment I met her, that she had the power to shake things up. It wasn't an overt malice on her part, perhaps, but a force of nature. I'd been so blinded by her brightness, I hadn't seen the darkness that could lurk in the shadows of such blinding light. And now, here I was, left in those very shadows, picking up the shattered pieces of my life, wondering how I could have ever been so oblivious. The sunshine had become a storm, and I was left to face the wreckage alone.